Okay. Welcome. Welcome to the NFT market health analysis for today, 21st of February, by me, Daniel Tenner, aka Swombat. And yeah, let's get straight into it. I mean, you can probably see for yourselves. It's not looking particularly good. There's an update about the women-led project index that I'll do also today. So if we look at the top 10, it's trending down. There was a little bump there, but it didn't last. Zeneca Old is down. Zeneca New is having a little bit of a rise. We'll look into this shortly. And then the women-led projects, which has been updated with new content, new projects, is also still trending down. So if we look at the 14-day stack bar chart, we can see that, yeah, there was a little bit of activity here. And this one here is Creature World, which had a bit of a marketing push, I think. I'm not 100% sure what exactly happened. Good morning. Yeah, that's sort of drifting out, and the volumes on all the other projects in the top 10 is abysmal. So we're continuing to go down with this index, and you can see that in the charts there. Like, trend down is very clear. Maybe we're flattening, but I don't know. Like, I wouldn't count on it at this point. This lower low here is particularly dramatic. Obviously, it could be driven by the OpenSea or the security issues that we've had, yeah, that might be partly why this. I mean, maybe this was going to be a bump about this high, and then it's just gotten here because nobody wants to sell. Everybody's delisted everything. Hopefully, volume will creep back in, and my optimistic case there is that maybe it starts to sort of go back up. That would be great, but I'm not counting on it at the moment. Yes, if you want to, by the way, if you want to post questions, I will look at them after after I do the update of the charts. If we look at Zeneca Old, I mean, there's not a lot to say there. It was sort of trending sideways, and it's now kitten that demands to be part of the broadcast. It was trending sideways. It's now trending down. That could very well be due to that security issue that's just frightened the whole market. We'll see if it rebounds. Zeneca Old is seeing a little bit of a bounce. Zeneca New is seeing a bit of a bounce up there. And if we look at the stacked bar charts, we can see that there's activity across a number of projects, in particular this yellow project, which I haven't identified exactly what it is yet, but it is seeing some build-up in activity over a few days, which is nice. Good for them. If it continues, maybe I'll try and narrow down exactly what that might be. But there's more than just this one. So for some reason, there's more activity in Zeneca New. I don't know why. Although if we put in context of, where things have been, we're still very much in the dumps on Zeneca New. And if you look at those charts there, you can see that even with this rise here in the short-term chart, it looks really good. But the more long-term you get, the more you can see that this is really nothing to shout about. Finally, so the women-led projects, what's happened is, like, the original women-led projects, I built from a tweet by Ali Sinclair, and he recently provided an updated tweet there with some more projects, and he's given me access to the spreadsheet that has those projects. So I went and updated the index to include those projects. I ended up adding also like increasing the fade factor of so the way it fades mints, so like the way it progressively fades projects in to avoid mints creating unnecessary spikes in the volume. That's not a perfect way to do it, but it mostly works. But I've increased it a little bit because there were a lot of more recent projects added. If you then, like with this, if you then look at the change in the index, it's not a huge difference. Certainly the trend is still the same. There's maybe a little bit more volume or slightly higher than we would be otherwise, which makes sense because there's more projects. But overall, we can see that even including recent projects that have minted, like MetaAngels and Women Rise and such projects, even including those, the trend is still down in this index as well, and it's still fairly bad. Let's just look at the context for this as well. So, as usual, I'll look at the Bitcoin and Ethereum price. I mean, it's kind of going down. There was a bit, if we look at the 1 hour chart, there was a bit of a rally today, earlier today, but then it's kind of collapsed back down in a sort of fairly scary way there, down $2,000 in a couple of hours. So crypto is still quite volatile, not doing great, and that's true for Ethereum as well. The war in Ukraine hasn't started yet, but it seems like everybody seems convinced that it will happen. On the whole, yeah, the market context is not great. We've had a big scare about NFT security. Crypto is collapsing. It's not very surprising that we're in a bear market. I mean, look at the bright side. At least gas is low. So there's that. That doesn't mean that just because we're in a bear market, that doesn't mean that all projects are doing badly. As someone pointed out on Twitter, NFT land, for some reason, which I don't know particularly why that would be, but NFT land, particularly NFT worlds, seems to be pumping a lot. If somebody knows why, please feel free to share. And projects that have minted recently, I think, tend to still have a bit of that buzz of post-minting. So if we go into MetaAngels, for example, let me see if I can load up. Use Mobi for this. Go into collections. MetaAngels. Let's look at this first. It's seeing like a decent amount of activity, considering we're in a deep bear market. The fact that it's seeing 82 sales in the last day is pretty decent. Sorry, 77. And if we dig into the project, sorry, Mobi is a bit slow. Switch to a 7-day view, which is the one I normally look at. Apologies for the delay. Normally I'd load this ahead of time. Very slow. Right. It's kind of, I mean, volume, like, so what, for me, what happened with MetaAngels is there was a bit of a hype pump that happened there. If you were in the Discord at that point, I think it was during ETH Denver, there was probably a lot of activity driven by, like, I believe Ali gave a talk at ETH Denver, and I don't know, hype built up around there. And if you looked at the Discord around then, the general channel got kind of overtaken by floor boys, all going on about how, oh my God, it's pumping, it's going up, like it's going to be 1 ETH soon, 2 ETH by next week. Like, and I generally take this as a negative sign. This is the expected result when floor talk overtakes the general channel. I kind of expected that, and if you look at the listings, you can see what happened is that at some point the volume finally dies out for some reason, and then there's people get scared, and like people who got in just for the short-term price movement get scared and they start undercutting. These pink dots are the listings. You can see all these listings coming in with no sales. And then finally the demand picks up again. Now, one way that I like to look at this is that I think that MetaAngels was on a kind of like trajectory, like this would be the sort of curve that I would draw. And basically it's created a sort of bounciness. It's kind of thrown off that trajectory to have these all this floor talk on the general channel, which means that in the short term, there's a bit more volatility as the price goes up and down and up and down and up and down. My belief, and obviously disclaimer, I own 13 MetaAngels, and if you go to swombat.io and click on transparency, you can see my strategy around it. My belief is still that the long-term value of this project is high, so I'm still holding. I've listed a couple around 1 ETH to de-risk. Other than that, I'm not that concerned about this. This is just short-term volatility. And it's what I expect when there's a lot of floor talk going on in a project. So if you join a project with long-term value and you see this sort of pattern where the price starts going, usually when the price starts going parabolic, it always ends up crashing at some point. And if you see lots of people talking about the floor, that's usually also a sign that it's about to crash, or like it's going to crash sooner or later. I don't bother with this short-term trading, but if I did, that would be that would have been a really, it was around then I was looking at the general channel. And that would have been a great time to just sell everything, then wait for the price to collapse and then buy back in. If you can be bothered to do that. I can't be bothered. Also because sometimes it might just keep going for a while and then crash. And if you've sold there, then anyway, that's a game that some people like to play. And if so, yeah, the floor boy is coming out. Good sell signal. Okay. I think that's it, unless somebody has another question. Okay. So I know the live is a little bit delayed, so maybe I'll give it a moment before before closing the broadcast. I've actually got the live broadcast on this screen over there to look at, to see what's happening. And yeah, and maybe I'll conclude by saying that if you, as I said in my thread, what to do in this kind of, yeah, feel free to ask a general question. What to do in this kind of market where it's quite bearish, a lot of projects are down. I mean, if you look at the collections list here, I mean, Crypto Coven, for example, was putting 89 sales a day steadily throughout for weeks, and everything is just down. Even Lazy Lions normally puts in 30, 40 sales a day, and it's now 20. And this is despite the fact that they just had Coinbase put a bungalow as their header image. So volumes are down everywhere. That doesn't change the fundamentals of the NFT market. I believe it's still a market that I believe in, and that I think it is basically the future of small business fundraising. So in this kind of market, my advice is basically build. You'll know it's me. If you have a question, just ask the question. So in a bear market, build, get busy creating things, or just wait, do something else for a while. The market will recover. I don't think the NFT market will have just existed for less than a year and then collapse and never recover again. That seems like a ridiculous position to take. About as ridiculous as declaring that because Bitcoin price is down, that's it, Web3 is over. It's not. So question about Zeneca new and old. If you look at the description of the video, you'll see a link to a spreadsheet. So Zeneca has had a daily floor index for a year, or he used to have a daily floor index, and he had done the work already of selecting a whole bunch of notable projects. And being the lazy person that I am, rather than going and trying to make my own arbitrary selection, I decided to just reuse somebody else's arbitrary selection. And so my first index was the top 10, and then I added Zeneca old and Zeneca new, and he had split it into old projects that were started around August and before, and newer projects that were started in September and later. and I just adopted that split. So in the description of this video, there is a link to the spreadsheet that shows which projects compose each of the indices. So check that out if you're curious about which projects are included in each of the indices. But that's all it is. It's and in case you don't know, Zeneca _33 is so NFT influencer who has a podcast and a project where he gathers other people and so on. I don't know anything about Cameo Pass, so I have no thoughts about it. Give another 13:16. We're getting towards. I mean, if people don't want to listen to the Q&A, they can just drift off. I'm done with the thoughts about the broadcast, but I can hang out a little bit longer to answer questions. Yes, 1 day SMA refers to 1 day simple moving average. There's if we look at this one, like there's the underlying data is this. It's just basically sales counts. So it's important. It's not sales volumes. I tried sales volumes, but sales volumes distort things in favor of expensive projects. Like that thing at the very bottom there, I believe, is CryptoPunks. They're amongst them, like they're more expensive than most of the other projects here. And if you had this done by ETH amount, they would look massive when in fact it's just a few selling, and I think that's less representative of market activity than the number of sales. So these are sales counts. This is the underlying data, and then I do a kind of normalization and logarithm first, and then normalization to create a 0 to 10 index for each 6-hour chunk, and then even that is still too jagged and hard to read. So I just display the 1 day SMA, the 7 day SMA, and the 30 day SMA, and you can see trends more easily with this. I still use this to see, like, to be more sensitive to really short-term things. But I use this to see what the trend is. Right, I'll give it another minute, and then I'll end the broadcast, unless somebody has another question. Because, you know, the cat needs some attention. She's really the star of the show. There's another cat on the desk on the side here. 2 kittens. Okay, thank you very much for dialing in and for asking questions. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.